Welcome into the Solo Shot Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Dom Manna. Happy Solo Shot Saturday, everyone. Apologies for last week's episode. There were some difficulties with StreamYard as well as the internet access here at the ETV Community Media Center, but we are back at it with a packed show because it's essentially 2 shows worth of content here. And I think I'm kind of glad because there were some topics on that show that as more decisions have been made, that there's been more of a complete way to cover it all. But one that I'm definitely the last person in the world to is that Clayton Kershaw became the 20th member of the 3,000 Strikeout Club in a start against the White Sox. And he made everybody wait for it, just like I made you wait for my take on it. And that is because Clayton Kershaw went 6 innings. He needed 3 Ks. He got his 3rd K with a called 3rd strike at the end of the inning to walk off to thunderous applause. Not only is he the 20th member of the 3,000 Strikeout Club, but he's the 4th lefty to ever do it. That is Steve Carlton, Randy Johnson, and CeCe Sabathia. Now Clayton Kershaw joins them, and is the 3rd player of those 20 to do it with one franchise. I talked about it on this podcast before, how the 3,000 Strikeout Club wasn't always considered the milestone that it is. Walter Johnson, the big train, who was the best pitcher before integration, he was the only player up until 1974 that had 3,000 plus strikeouts in the major leagues. And Bob Gibson, who was the other person to do it with one franchise for the St. Louis Cardinals, became the 2nd person to ever do so, finally forming it as a club because there cannot be a club with one person in it. But really, really cool. Clayton Kershaw, the final feather in the cap for an Inner Circle Hall of Famer. Was really awesome to get to catch that game live, see all the just amazing, amazing turnout for him in terms of people loving and appreciating the career that has been for Clayton Kershaw, who I don't want to get into, is he the best pitcher of his generation? Because Verlander and Scherzer are all-time greats as well that have been in the 3,000 Strikeout Club for a couple years now. But Clayton Kershaw is definitely the best lefty of his generation and a all-time great that I'm very thankful I got to watch a good chunk of his career. Now, Clayton Kershaw will be joining the All-Stars down in Atlanta for the National League. He was made a commissioner's pick, much like Albert Pujols, Miguel Cabrera have been in years past. Clayton Kershaw was added to the National League roster. But the All-Star starters, the fans were so close to getting it right. I'm a Bobby Witt Jr. fan. I knew he was going to make the All-Star team anyway. I was fine with Jacob Wilson getting the nod by the fans. He's the first rookie shortstop to do so in the All-Star fan voting era. So that was really cool. But in the National League, it was perfect. It was beautiful. A lot of people were mad that Juan Soto didn't get it. Ronald Acuna Jr. has been playing like a true MVP since he came back, and it's in Atlanta. I am fine with Ronald Acuna Jr. getting the nod there. The 2 Cubs, Pete Crow Armstrong and Kyle Tucker, are very deserving. They made the cut. In the National League infield, Machado checking another box, 2,000 hits last week, now getting another All-Star nod at third base. The shortstop being Francisco Lindor, which I think was the right decision, especially as Mookie Betts has continued to cool off. Him getting his 5th All-Star nod. At second base, Ketel Marte, 3rd in the last 4 years. He's the best second baseman in baseball, no question. Freddie Freeman over Pete Alonso. I was a fan of doing that because I think he's just been Mr. Consistent, his 9th All-Star appearance, and Will Smith behind the dish, getting his 3rd All-Star nod as well. Just a really deserving group. On the American League side, Judge was already locked in with his 5th appearance as the captain. Shohei Ohtani as well as the DH, 5th All-Star appearance in the National League. But the American League got a little dicier. Jacob Wilson, Bobby Witt was a real conversation. Jose Ramirez was the 3rd baseman. He opted out, but 7th All-Star for him. Second base, Gleyber Torres was kind of the obvious pick. It's his 2nd All-Star team. First base for the American League, Vlad Jr. gets his 5th. Cal Raleigh gets his 1st, which I was shocked to see that it's his 1st All-Star game. He's been one of the best catchers in baseball the last couple years. And in the outfield, Riley Green, a deserving Tiger, gets it for the 2nd year in a row. And Javi Baez is going to be starting for the American League in center field. Now, Javi Baez has been one of the better stories of the year. I understand it. He went from one of the worst hitters in baseball to a guy who's been a legit contributor to the best team in the American League. I'm not saying that if he got named a reserve that I would have a problem with it, but him being voted in as a starter has affected a lot of stuff and is also historic as well in nature because there's only a handful of players that have started the All-Star game at multiple positions. But he is now one of 3 players to start the All-Star game at 3 different positions because he started at second base, he has started at shortstop, and now he is starting in the outfield. Is Javi Baez that kind of generational player? Was he really that much better than George Springer and Joe Adele and Mike Trout and Julio Rodriguez and all the guys that he got voted in over? I don't think so. But nonetheless, he's an all-star. People wanted to do the Jurickson Profar thing again. The only problem was last year the National League outfield was really weak statistically. This year, the American League outfield is pretty strong. So him getting that nod, it makes the math with the reserves that I'll get into later a little bit more difficult. But a lot of guys kind of just checking that box towards their All-Star and Hall of Fame careers. So really, really cool with the All-Star starters. They were this close to getting it right, the fans. Javi Baez ended up sneaking in and making the math a little bit harder. Last week, we did not have the Home Run Derby lineup, but now we have the whole Home Run Derby lineup. The aforementioned Ronald Acuna Jr. was the first person to opt in. He has opted out because of a back strain. Matt Olson will be the hometown representative for the Atlanta Braves. All-star first baseman Matt Olson. A lot of power in that bat. People that are sitting in the chop house and right field are going to have a fun time with all these lefty power bats. James Wood, one of the most exciting young players in baseball, was very excited to see him get named a all-star reserve, and him being in the Home Run Derby is going to be really, really fun. He has a ton of power, and he can hit to all fields. It just kept getting better because Cal Raleigh, the home run leader in his first all-star appearance, his first all-star weekend, he's hitting in the Home Run Derby, and he hit 2 more home runs last night. He has 38 home runs before the All-Star break. He's 1 away from tying Bonds for the record, 2 away from passing. And he, by far, has the most home runs by a switch hitter going into the break, by far the most by a catcher going into the break. He's been unreal, and I'm very, very excited to see Cal Raleigh in the Home Run Derby. I think getting the home run leader, MVP candidate, along with a young star in James Wood, and at the time, the most electric player from the home team in Ronald Acuna. I thought that was a really great start, and that's what I was going to talk about. But now we have the full lineup, which consists of Byron Buxton, who is having a fantastic season for the Twins, a deserving all-star reserve. O'Neal Cruz, who has some of the craziest batted ball data in the StatCast era. He hits the ball extremely hard. I am very scared for people in the stands during his at-bats. So he will be very fun to watch. Jazz Chisholm was the last man added, who has a lot of home run power for a second baseman, but not necessarily light tower power, putting on a show. We'll see how his swing translates to the Derby. And when you go further, Junior Caminero of the Tampa Bay Rays, who I think is getting really slept on. He has the lowest odds right now to win the home run derby, and I'm not feeling as confident in this field as I was last year for my Teoscar Hernandez pick, which ended up cashing in pretty well. But him being the lowest odds is surprising to me because he has a ton of power. I think he has the swing for the derby, and it will be very, very interesting to watch Junior Caminero, who's, as a Tampa Bay Ray should be, is being underlooked and kind of sold short right now in the derby as a whole. And Brent Rooker of the Oakland, formerly A's, it is it's fun to see him in the derby as well. He's got a ton of power, really good guy. Another guy with a compact swing that isn't super high in the standings. If I could sprinkle a little bit on Caminero and a little bit on Rooker, I'd feel pretty good because this is a field where I think any of the 8 could win, and those guys have much lower odds than James Wood and O'Neal Cruz and some of those guys. Cal Raleigh, of course, being the favorite. So it's very, very exciting. If I had to put my pick on someone right now, I think I'm going to go with James Wood. He has unreal power. We've seen in the last couple derbies with Bobby Witt Jr. and Julio Rodriguez that there's usually a young player that puts himself on the national map during the home run derby as, wow, this guy's a real star player in this game. The future's bright. I expect one of James Wood, Junior Caminero, or O'Neal Cruz to have that moment. Now, if you remember, those guys haven't won the derby. They've just put on a show. But James Wood, I think, has the power to not only put on a show, but to win the damn thing. So I'm very excited to watch Junior Caminero, O'Neal Cruz, and James Wood. But I think James Wood right now would be my pick for the home run derby. Matt Olson being a late entry is interesting to make the pick. And like I said, Caminero and Rooker I think are a little bit too low because I think the field is pretty open right now. But I will be rooting for James Wood, and I'm excited to see if I can hit the home run derby champion 2 years in a row. Last year it was a little bit more unsung. This year I'm going with one of the hotter young bats in the game. Here at the Solo Shot Sports Podcast, we have to throw back down the third base line to this day in baseball history. And June 12th actually had quite a few options to choose from. There was obviously the 300th win of Cy Young, who is the pitcher that the award is named after, and all-time Hall of Famer who leads all of baseball history in wins and complete games and games pitched and all those great things. And I think it's just amazing that Hall of Fame pitchers in general, 300 wins is such an inner circle milestone. But if you look at the 211 wins that Cy Young got after this date in 1901, that would have him 57th in terms of Hall of Fame pitchers, ahead of like 30-something Hall of Fame pitchers with just the 211 wins he had post-1901. So that's really, really insane to think about with the way that pitchers used to be used and the feats that they were able to accomplish in the dead ball era. But you see the signature, you see him in the thumbnail. Dave Parker made his major league debut on this date in 1973. Dave Parker, it really breaks my heart, man, because I was so excited that he got elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame by the Classic Era Committee a few months ago, and he did a few interviews and seemed to be very happy and grateful. And then on June 28th, he was reportedly passed away. He had been battling for many, many years. His health is not the best. It was part of the reason why I was happy he got in. And while we'll have those interviews and those reactions videos forever, He didn't get his day on the stage, surrounded by his fellow Hall of Famers, getting a standing ovation, getting cheers, and getting to deliver his speech himself, and I think that is a damn shame. The Cobra was a 7-time All-Star, a home run derby champion, MVP of the league, 3 Gold Gloves, 3 Silver Sluggers, 2 batting titles. When the leaves turn brown, I'll be wearing the batting crown, 2-time World Series champ, won the All-Star Game MVP as well. 40 career WAR. At the end of his career, he was mostly a negative player, playing the field and DHing a little bit. But over 1,200 runs scored, over 500 doubles, 339 home runs, 1,493 RBIs, 154 stolen bases. His career slash line, 290, 339, 471, a 121 OPS plus. He was always a Hall of Famer. 2,712 hits. If he didn't have his off-the-field issues with drugs and with the media, he would have been a Hall of Famer a long time ago. And I hope that this kind of trend of people dying right before the balloting or people dying right after being elected shows that the writers really need to prioritize the living candidates. I want to see Dwight Evans give his speech. I want to see Lou Whitaker give his speech. I want to see Tommy John give his speech. I want to see those guys in Cooperstown, because regardless if Dave Parker had finished his speech or not, I don't know if it was finished. I don't know if that's the speech that will be given at the Hall of Fame ceremony. It's not going to be Dave Parker on that podium. It's going to be someone else. And I think the fans deserve better. I think the Hall of Fame players deserve to be able to see that day. There's plenty of deceased players that are deserving of Hall of Fame induction, don't get me wrong. But you need to make sure you're electing more of these guys while they're still alive, so the era committees especially aren't just electing deceased players that are giving the speech from a loved one or from another Hall of Famer who was a teammate or an admirer stepping in. So, rest in peace, Dave Parker. Was really sad to see that, but he made his debut to his Hall of Fame career on this date in 1973, and I hope he rests easy. I think most baseball fans can rest easy knowing that he died with the knowledge that he was in the Hall of Fame, that he wasn't outside of it. Now, the reserve snub talk is always really fun right when the starters and reserves are announced. There's been a lot of replacements already named, which makes things a little complicated. But I do think if you look at all of the players that have been named reserves, there are plenty of question marks. In terms of the initial reserves, on the National League side, Pete Alonso, deserving. Corbin Carroll, deserving. Ellie De La Cruz, deserving. Brendan Donovan, deserving. Hunter Goodman, one of like 2 or 3 Rockies you could have picked, so deserving. Matt Olson, he's right on that line. He's had a really underrated year. I think he's a great player. Kyle Schwarber, deserving. He has over 30 home runs going to the break as well. Kyle Stowers, one of a couple Marlins you could have chose, but it makes the math harder. Fernando Tatis Jr. started off the season deserving, but now it's a little more iffy. James Wood, deserving. On the pitching side, Matthew Boyd, extremely deserving. He has opted out already. Mackenzie Gore, extremely deserving. Freddie Peralta, deserving. Chris Sale, Robbie Ray, both been deserving. Chris Sale's already opted out from injury. Paul Skeens, of course, that's the Pirate. Yoshinobu Yamamoto has opted out as well, but he's deserving. Logan Webb, deserving. Zach Wheeler, deserving. Randy Rodriguez, oh my goodness, one of the best relievers in baseball. Jason Adam, first-time All-Star, congratulations. Edwin Diaz, welcome back to the All-Star Club. I have no problem with I have more problems with the hitters on the National League side than the pitchers. The American League's kind of the opposite. Hunter Brown, Chris Bubich, Max Fried, Garrett Crochet, Jacob deGrom, absolutely deserving. Tarek Skubal, Brian Wu, Aroldis Chapman, Andres Munoz, Josh Hader, all deserving. The 2 question marks in the AL pitchers are Yusei Kikuchi and Shane Smith, who are the representatives for the Angels and White Sox. Every team needs an all-star. Kikuchi is close enough for me. Shane Smith's a little bit of a reach, but a good story. But the reserves on the AL side, that's where the real questions have come into place. Alex Bregman was named a reserve, and while he is back now from injury, he was injured at the time and will not be participating in the All-Star game. He got replaced immediately by Junior Caminero, who I think should have been the reserve third baseman from the jump. Caminero's teammates, Jonathan Aranda and Brandon Lowe, made it. I think Brandon Lowe deserved it. Jonathan Aranda has had a breakout season and is someone who I did not think was going to be a initial reserve. I thought he'd be a replacement type player, but I was happy to see him in there. It does get a little dicey as we continue. Byron Buxton, deserving. Alejandro Kirk. I know a lot of Red Sox fans think Narvaez deserved it, but they only did 2 catchers on each side, and I do think Kirk's had the better year overall, but Narvaez is right there. Jeremy Pena's having an MVP caliber down ballot season, so Jeremy Pena being an all-star I had no problem with. Brent Rooker's had a fantastic year. Like I said, Bobby Witt Jr. is going to make it. Julio Rodriguez made it. While he is more deserving than Javi Baez, he is not more deserving than George Springer. Stephen Kwan made it. While he's more deserving than Javi Baez, not more deserving than George Springer. And if people are wondering why I'm saying that, if you look at all of the American League, George Springer is 7th in OPS behind Judge, Raleigh, Devers, Aranda, and Buxton. All All-Stars. Devers didn't make it because he moved to the National League. It kind of sucks for him. George Springer, 7th in the American League in OPS. In terms of players 35 or older, the season that he's been able to put together has been no shortage of impressive 16 home runs, ton of pop, hitting for a good average, getting on base. He's an all-star this year, but he's not. And there's been some replacements since where George Springer did not get the call. Julio Rodriguez got replaced by his teammate Randy Arozarena, another guy arguably more deserving than Baez, but not more deserving than Springer. And it's just a really, really crazy thing to see there. Taylor Ward and Joe Adell are right up there in the top 10 in the American League in home runs, and they were not named as the replacement for Julio Rodriguez to get an Angel in the game because Kikuchi will not be participating. I thought that was a mistake as well. But Jazz Chisholm, like I said, one of the better offensive second basemen in the game. At the time, he was more of a third baseman, and I don't think he deserved to be in over a Caminero, or Isaac Paredes, who has replaced Jose Ramirez, who has opted out of participating. But Jazz Chisholm's in there. I think if you were going to have another Yankee bat, that you honestly would go with either Grisham or Goldschmidt. But I'm okay with Jazz being there. I don't think it was the best selection on the American League side. But there's been a ton of reserves that have opted out, and there's been replacements, and a lot of them first-time All-Stars, which is cool to get those guys in the game. But because of the star power that has already been eliminated from this exhibition, Major League Baseball decided to give rookie pitcher from the Brewers, Jacob the Miz Mizorowski, the All-Star nod after 5 starts and 26 innings in the bigs. I totally understand that you want to showcase someone who is one of the biggest stars right now in the league. I understand Paul Skeens started the All-Star game last year as a rookie. He had more than 5 starts and 26 innings under his belt. Mizorowski has been great, but not quite at Skeens level in terms of run prevention. The strikeout numbers have been there. I understand you have a lot of pitchers opting out You have a lot of players opting out. You need some star power that you want Mizorowski over Christopher Sanchez or another deserving pitcher from the National League, which is why I'm wearing my Phillies jersey today, by the way. Christopher Sanchez got completely snubbed. I think that this Mizorowski decision is borderline blasphemy. I understand how impressive he is. I understand he's going to throw some crazy stuff in the inning that he pitches in the game. But players work for 5, 10, 15 years and sometimes get 1 or 2 all-star nods. There's only a couple opportunities to be an all-star for the majority of players. And to take away that opportunity from a veteran who's having a complete great first half of a season, for a guy that's 5 starts into his career, if he continues on his track record, he'll make his own all-star appearances down the road. I just don't love that as a reserve. And while there's plenty other injury replacements that I can argue, that is the one that by far grinds my gears the most and is the most questionable, because 5 starts into his career, it's not like he's thrown a no-hitter and 3 complete games and a shutout. It's he's been awesome, but he has not been that level in 5 starts where you put someone in. And even if you make the innings argument, there are relievers with 26-plus innings that have done high leverage moments for the whole season for their teams that I would have been fine with in that spot as well. So let me know what you think in the comments below of the all-star reserves and who got snubbed and what you think of some of the injury replacements. I know that it doesn't seem like a lot now, but these decisions to be or to not be an all-star, they don't just impact someone like Juan Soto's pockets, but they impact a lot of these players who are trying to build Hall of Fame resumes and missing out on a year because of an injury or a player at your position breaking out or a decision like Jacob Mizorowski getting put in the All-Star game. That can really impact some players' ability to be a 5 to 10 time All-Star, which is typically what most Hall of Fame players end up being by the end of their career. I appreciate you for spending part of your Solo Shot Saturday with me. If you watched on YouTube, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, leave me a review. It really helps the channel grow, and of course share this podcast with someone who loves the game of baseball as much as we do. Enjoy the MLB draft this weekend. Enjoy the home run derby on Monday. James Wood's going to win. And enjoy the All-Star game. I said it many times before, but baseball does All-Star weekend and the All-Star game the best. The Midsummer Classic is always can't-miss TV for me, no matter who's playing. I'm Dom Manna, and I'll see you guys next week.